Do you own your client relationships or are you just renting them? Here's the test every financial advisor should take. If you walked away from your firm tomorrow, could you take your clients with you? If the answer is no, you don't own them. You're just renting them. I just helped a wirehouse advisor move a $100 million book of business to independence. She'd been serving those clients for about 15 years. And the moment she resigned, her firm started calling them to poach them back. She found out the hard way that she'd been renting the entire time. Now, I've helped nearly a dozen firms make the transition to ownership. And today, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it takes to go from renting your clients to owning the relationship. Because if you don't understand this distinction, you'll never own anything. Now, here's what renting clients actually means. Renting a client just means that you don't own the relationship. The firm you are registered at owns the client data. That means if you decide to resign and you transfer that data with you, they can sue you. The client I was working with found out that although she had been cultivating these relationships for years and years, the moment she submitted her resignation, the wirehouse started calling her clients. Not to wish them well, by the way, to poach them back, like I said. She was literally competing with her former employer for relationships she thought were hers. And here's what stuck with me during that transition. The frustration on her face when she realized she didn't own those relationships. She had been serving those clients in some cases for years, but the wirehouse owned the account agreements, the data, the compliance records, everything. She was renting access to those clients the entire time. So realize this, in a lot of ways, if you leave, you're going to be starting from scratch. So the natural question probably is, well, Dom, if that's the case, why would I ever leave? Great question. And we need to discuss the trade-offs, the pros and cons, if you will, so that when I show you exactly how to pull the trigger, you will be making the best decision for you. Now, we've covered the cons of renting. You don't own the relationships, you can't take the data, and if you ever want to leave, you're competing with your former employer for clients that you thought were yours. But there are pros to renting. First of all, if you're new in the industry, brand equity is a big thing. And when you work for a wirehouse or a large broker dealer with a national or global name, you get to rely on all of their brand equity. If you have little to no experience in the industry as a financial advisor, it's going to be much easier to say, I'm part of a bigger team, a well-known brand. And you don't get to do that if you go independent and have your own personal name at stake here. Let's talk infrastructure. Now, at a wirehouse or a broker dealer that has a big name, you probably won't have to buy the CRM, the financial planning software, the investment management tools. They're going to even have teams and resources for you to have access to. So that's another pro. The other thing is you're probably going to get a salary. In most cases, you will have some type of draw, or you don't have to worry about whether or not you wait around to see if you're going to eat. In the independent world, you eat what you kill. And if you don't kill anything, you're going to go hungry. Now let's pivot to some of the pros of independence, because as an independent firm owner, I get to enjoy equity value. I'm building an asset, and I can sell that asset. So when I exit my RIA at the end of 2026, I'm getting paid for the relationships I own. If I had been renting them, I'd walk away with nothing. The other thing I get is full control. I decide who I serve, how I serve them, what platforms I use, what my fee structure is, everything. Last but not least, succession planning. I can hand my business off to someone I choose. I get to structure that agreement however I want, as long as the other person agrees to it. It's totally mine to do whatever I want with it. But to be fair, since we talked about the cons of renting, I want to cover the cons of owning also. Personal liability. In exchange for independence and autonomy, everything is on me. If I screw something up with the client and they sue me, then there's no middleman or national brand that's going to step in between me and that lawsuit. It's all going to be on me. The second thing is you got to have the mindset of a business owner, because you're not just a financial advisor. You got to be a savvy business owner. If you don't have that skill set, independence is going to be a deterrent. See, at a wirehouse, you can just be a financial advisor. But when you go independent, you have to have the skills of good financial advisor and good business owner. You need to understand compliance, operations, bookkeeping, systems, workflows, all of it. And if you don't have that capital to spend on hiring the people that could do those things better than you, then your path is going to be difficult, my friend. So if you've weighed all the pros and cons of each and you're ready to make the jump, Here's what I want you to know. I've built a 10-step checklist that will walk you through everything to form your business entity, your registered investment advisory firm, to get approved by the securities regulator in whatever state you're in. It's the exact process I've used to help nearly a dozen firms hang their shingle. And you can download the full checklist for free down in the description. But before you download this checklist, I need you to answer this one question and be very honest, please. Can I play the role of competent financial advisor operating in my zone of genius and savvy business owner? Because if the answer is no, then you need to stop, full stop. You need to question whether it's time for you to go independent, because you may need to join an existing team when there's nothing wrong with that. Because acknowledging that there are many variations between this employee and owner model, it's still worth the effort to explore some of those variations just to make sure you're ready to make the jump. Because going solo is a big deal. Here's why I ask that. If anybody were to ask me in all of my experience of opening firms, what's the mistake I see most often? And that's going to be a lack of self-awareness about how much it really takes to be a good business owner, not just a great financial planner. People go independent all too often too early. They typically don't have enough life experience to help them become a better advisor and business owner. And if you couple that with just being an average financial advisor, in a lot of cases, they are fighting a pretty significant uphill battle. Let's face it, most financial advisors are competent enough as planners, especially if they have like a CFP or any of that kind of stuff. If they ever got a client though, if no one knows you exist, then that's gonna be a big problem. This is the number one obstacle I see most. Now, if I was talking to a much younger version of myself, what's the one thing I wish I had known earlier? I wish I had known earlier, who do I help and how do I help them? You see, clarity on that would have caused me to double down on becoming an expert in providing those services to those people. Why do I know that this is the answer? Because now that I specialize in just 2 or 3 areas in my practice, I'm able to charge what I'm worth. And for those of you wondering, I did a price increase last summer and only had one family that left, and it resulted in a 54% increase in revenue. In years past, I struggled with trying to offer so many different services instead of just getting really good at 2 to 3 things. It's funny how that discipline required to develop expertise is very boring, but very profitable. So here's the bottom line, my friend. You can either keep renting, which means relying on someone else's brand, someone else's infrastructure, someone else's rules, or you can take the leap and own it yourself. But here's what I want you to understand. Going independent isn't just about having the courage to leave. It's about having the clarity and the systems to succeed once you do. I've helped nearly a dozen firms make this transition. Some were ready, some weren't. The difference? The ones who succeeded didn't just want independence. They also had a plan. So if you're sitting in a wirehouse or at a broker dealer right now and you're wondering if it's time to make the move, let's talk. I offer independence consultations where we map out exactly what your transition would look like. The capital you'll need, the systems you'll need to build, the timeline to expect, and whether now is actually the right time for you. So link is in the description, book a call. I would love to talk with you. And if you want me to do a video walking through the exact startup cost of launching an RIA, like what you actually need to spend versus what's nice to have, comment below and let me know. If enough of you want it, I'll make it. Remember, operators work in the business while architects work on the business. See you next time.